Welcome back everyone to theCUBE's live coverage here in San Francisco at RSAC 2025. I'm John Furrier, your host with Dave Vellante.
Got to get that C in there.
Got to get the C. I always forget, Dave. RSAC. Sumit Dhawan's here, the CEO of Proofpoint, part of our Cyber CEO Leader Series, of course. NYSE, Wired, community is open to everyone, it's open source, and a growing community around leaders, bringing together the best of the best. Sumit, great to have you on theCUBE again, good to see you. This is your show. This is like the biggest security show because it's got the business side, all the customers are here. They have technology tracks, there's sandboxing, so they do a good job of doing that, but it can be vendor keynotes, set some feedback, but for the most part, everyone's here, okay?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me.
Great to see you again.
But you're right, John. I mean, I think as we were discussing, we've had just this week alone, 220 customer meetings booked. Okay, this is not including dinners and hanging out at the bars with customers. These are just actual conversations in conference rooms. We've taken a big sort of series of rooms and customers like it because it's a way for them to engage with strategic players and strategic partners. Yeah. And so that's the best use of the RSA conference we get.
What's the conversation like and how has it changed in the last couple of years?
I'd say the social engineering is hot and more customers that are coming internationally from different markets that we haven't had experience in the past. I met 3 Indian CISOs yesterday, customers from Singapore yesterday, Japanese customers. Those customers typically didn't think of Proofpoint as a key provider or a potential provider, and now they are interested because maybe, and we can only attribute this to generative AI because they're seeing much higher socially engineered phishing attacks. So that's number one. Secondly, data security. Okay, especially in the age of data being everywhere, and now with AI tooling coming in, and it's going into a little more production, even though it's still early days. So as they go into production, all of a sudden data security concerns, where the data is, and our posture solution is very important. That was less so of a conversation, and we weren't quite ready, the market wasn't quite ready last year. Those are 2 pretty significant differences I see from last year. And there's a little bit of this undertone of working with few strategic partners.
A little bit. It's starting. We're starting to see it, right? There's evidence in the data. Whereas last year, not so much.
It was starting, but it was definitely ticked up. It's ticked up. It's ticked up. It's a little bit more deliberate of an architectural approach of making it so that few players formulate the cyber architecture. So those are what I would consider as sort of differences from last year.
Yeah, the theme we're hearing on theCUBE is obviously the architecture change. Old way software was built to now AI readiness is a big part of that conversation. So clearly we're seeing that up and down the stack. You look at NVIDIA all the way to the apps and solutions around models, apps and infrastructure. But what you guys are doing, I want to ask you to explain this because I like what you guys say. Your AI-powered, human-centric approach. Can you explain that? Because we're hearing a lot of human in the loop, in the narratives, being much more front and center here at RSAC. What does that mean? What does AI-powered, human-centric platform mean? Can you describe it? Because I think that's going to be the theme that will carry on the next year for sure.
Last year at this conference, and I recall when we were talking about this last year, we introduced these new language model-based intent detection in the communications that people are having, so that intent can be detected in the communication, whether it is real or it's something that needs to be condemned because it's a potential threat. We have had that in production for a year now, okay? And the amount of efficacy we have seen in our solution has gone, while at the same time, volume and sophistication of threats have gone up. So we have actually used AI to take a step ahead of it. So volume and sophistication going up, our percentage detection, we call it efficacy metrics, have actually grown up quarter over quarter, okay? Because the AI, this technology that we have in our platform, it learns really well, and it gets better at a rapid pace. So we are quite proud of how AI can be used to effectively defend against the malicious use of AI that's happening in the threats. Same thing now, this year we introduced agentic AI into our solution. What agentic AI is doing is it's going out and discovering all your data, something that's manually humans can't do. Agentic AI can do that, combine language model with automation, and it becomes agentic to some extent. It spreads out and does the work of discovering, sampling, based on the sample, classifying, that makes sense for your organization, and then with one click enabling rules for DLP. If humans were to do it, this would take months or quarters. Okay, now agents can do that within a matter of days.
And how's the accuracy? I mean, more accurate?
Accuracy is significantly higher than humans.
Yeah.
Very high.
Humans
and you
don't get to it.
Yeah, humans won't get to it, right? So to me, that sort of is the relevance of AI-powered human-centric, because humans are the ones that are getting attacked. Humans are the ones that are losing data. So you couple them with AI so that A, you can deflect the attacks, and B, you can secure the data through the right set of data-centric security that's contextual to user behavior.
And the classification is with Gen AI, is that right?
It's all models, yeah. It's all. There are different types. It's like language models that are that can interpret code, images, and actual human languages.
Because state-of-the-art of classification used to be things like support vector machines or probabilistic latent semantic indexing, which were just not that great, you know?
Hey,
it takes too long.
Throwback there.
It's too long. I mean, many enterprises tried it, and those that had to basically just check the box on compliance, it's the only ones that were successful in rolling out, and then after a quarter they were unsuccessful because it changed. People are continually creating data.
Sumit, the user-centric positioning is interesting because one of the things we're hearing here is that post-COVID, you have two kind of work environments. You're in the building or on the network, and then you're at home. We saw that, obviously, from work at home. But now you have users being targeted everywhere, and with the models, for the bad guys, are getting smart and highly productive too. So there's a lot of phishing, a lot of human social engineering. I think I wrote on my post, social engineering is the one thing that everyone's afraid of, on both sides, the supplier side and also the customer side. Is this a big part of your growth right now? Is this piece of it, or is it other factors with the users being targeted? How is
we
that?
Announced our quarterly sort of summary. We share them on a quarterly basis. Most of our growth that is coming in is predominantly because of increased risk of just social engineering that's coming into the enterprises, okay? And existing customers want layers and layers of defense, and new customers that have really in the past not cared about it because their location, their size, their language of doing business were enough of a defense against, socially engineered attacks, and that's not the case anymore. Everyone needs the best possible protection. Doesn't matter how big you are, doesn't matter which location you are on, doesn't matter which language you do business in. Everyone needs it.
It may not be causal, but there's some data that we have. You mentioned ETR. They asked a question just last week, they closed the survey. 43% of it was an N of 500, have increased their cybersecurity spending, they said directly as a result of rising geopolitical tensions.
There you go.
But is it related to
geopolitical tension?
Because it's interesting to hear you say, Singapore, India, are more interested now in contacting Proofpoint. Do you think there's a relationship between the geopolitical tensions and?
I think there is maybe some. There is a higher degree of correlation between advent of generative AI and crypto. I think those two together contributed easier way to attack and easier way to extract.
Yep.
Okay, so to me, there is that. I think you combine that with people working from everywhere, the consumer-like work sort of behaviors and adopted in the work styles, and so that is, I think, a big determinant. We always correlate. What happens when there is geopolitical? Geopolitical risk creates higher degree of attacks onto critical infrastructure, both in terms of socially engineered attacks. So in other words, overall volume may seem reasonable, but if you zoom into certain industries, the volumes spike, okay? Secondly, it creates insider risk at a much, much higher rate. You start seeing, I was talking to a CISO of a global Fortune 50 company, and he said, listen, we analyzed the recent hires that we just made, and it was a shocking percentage of those that were North Koreans or funded by North Korea. So there's an increased degree of insider risk, and there is increased degree of socially engineered threats. Both human-centric problems coming in, but for certain industries,
And
more
these are-
so in certain industries.
And these are remote employees, most likely, right?
Yes.
Send me the laptop, and it goes to some laptop
And you know what, who
farm.
knows, when you have this employee that's coming in to
Yeah.
work for this enterprise, how long before they're actually going to be used as an attack vector? They're just in there at some point in time being placed so that they can be used to perform some form of detonation at the right time.
I've seen these simulations
Yeah.
of the interviews, and these kids look presentable, they're articulate, they've got a resume, you're hired.
Yeah, and they may not even know, they may not even have the intent at the time
Right.
when they are
Get
getting
recruited
hired.
in.
They're just recruited in
Yeah.
through just financial.
Sumit, talk about the business. Since you came to Proofpoint, what's the business outlook? Where's the growth coming from? You mentioned before we came on camera, sovereign clouds in the area. You mentioned some of those foreign locations and regions. What new products are coming out? Can you share some of the business metrics and what you're working on? Where's the action at?
Yeah, I think we announced last year we passed 2 billion in ARR, so we're proud of that. There are only handful of companies that have crossed that mark in the cyber industry, and if you look at all of those, we are the only ones that do human-centric, and that's all we focus on. In the human-centric platform, we have two set of solutions. One is threat defense, and in threat defense, growth is coming in by customers saying, I'm not going to use piece part solutions. I'm going to use you for not just email. I'm going to use you for protection for any channel, because threats may come in from WhatsApp and iMessage just like they are coming in from email. They are saying, I'm going to use you for also making sure that if accounts are taken over, you can correlate that back to how the threats originated, and then making sure the threat resiliency is built in. So, originally we were selling piece parts products. At this conference, we announced something called Prime Threat Protection. We built integrated workflows, one for SOC and one for humans, end users. So let's say if I'm a threat actor and I'm sending you guys two different type of socially engineered attacks because I've said it that you're two different, you're in accounting and payable and you're maybe doing an IT service desk. I'll send you a different socially engineered attack to you than I would to you. So then why do we have to do simulations and gaming the same way for both of you? Since we are the ones in Proofpoint defending and detecting what type of attack came into which user, now we can, with a click of a button, enable customers to say, hey, simulate and gamify the attacks as if they're coming in. Of course, you're not going to have their attacks.
Yeah,
so,
sure.
so that's kind of builds a human resiliency layer. So that's one thing that's driving growth. Second thing is, as I mentioned, there are new customers and new market segments, geographies, as well as lower size of the enterprises that typically Proofpoint has served in, or even managed service providers that have said, we want best-in-class efficacy, but we want a product that's suited for us, as is in running in my sovereign cloud. It's something managed service providers can operate in a multi-tenant fashion, or even if I'm a small enterprise, I can adopt it with a simple integration with Microsoft 365. So we did a partnership with Microsoft. We enabled a Microsoft 365 simple API. Boom, all of our threat stack is available to these customers who don't have security expertise, and we opened up data centers and availability in sovereign solutions all over. So it's early stage, but that's another area of growth.
So you see that as upside?
That's upside. That's upside. We're counting on it as we move forward because it's early days. And data security, our DLP business is on a tear. We believe we became the market leader after Q1. End of last year, Gartner said we are #2 player with such a small difference behind Symantec, okay? Q1 was a bumper quarter for us, 45% year-over-year growth. We're just growing this thing so fast. So we think we tipped the scale in Q1 and we took over the leadership. And that particular quarter had more Symantec replacement. So we think it's a 2-for-1 sort of a thing.
Well, first of all, congratulations. We know you know how to scale up, and following your work at VMware, incredible track record. But we're in a whole nother world now with cyber, and being a cyber leader as part of our series, I want to ask you, what is the cultural vibe right now? I mean, in the spirit of vibe coding, which is a hot trend.
Yeah.
What's it take to be a leader in cyber now? Because the market's changed. You mentioned those point products. You saw that, you pulled it together. That seems to be a trend. Consolidation's happening. Confidence around my partner, vendor, supplier. What is the culture of a leader now in cyber? Is there new rules? Are there new establishments? What would be your position on that?
Firstly, I would say the first rule I still believe in is the cyber is good at innovation and customer value. You cannot lose that in a cyber company in the spirit of doing everything else. So I would say you have to preserve that, number one. Number two, I think that the industry is highly fragmented, and you do need to think about not necessarily building a bunch of tools, but building integrated solutions that you can do organically, as well as bringing the right inorganic solutions. Like we acquired a company called Normalize. Amazing product, Gartner Cool Vendor of the Year. We integrated into our DLP solution, and it's integrated into our solution. We actually decided not to sell it standalone like it was. We said, let's get this. We'll keep the momentum going with customers who are interested, but then it's just someone comes in with DSPM, it's not a cul-de-sac. They can go to DLP straight from there with the one-click touch, rules are set up.
So data security is new with Normalize, or did you have data security before that?
We had data loss prevention, which was data security in motion, and now we have data security at rest. Yeah. But from a customer point of view, coming back to your point, it's one thing.
Yeah.
It's
the same data.
It's the same data. It's the same data. One is when it's in motion, and the other is when it's at rest. So we combined that together into a solution, but didn't force customers that you have to buy both. So that's the second thing, scaling part of it on how you build solutions while giving customers choices and paths. And then I would say ecosystem. I think ecosystem is an important dimension in cyber industry. I spend time with George at CrowdStrike. We spend time with CyberArk. We're building deeper integrations. We have the same thing with SASE players. So formulating partnerships with deep solutions that we can serve customers in an integrated fashion is something new for cyber industry.
Well, yeah, awesome, great. And you know ecosystems. I know we covered you at VMware again, like I said. I want to ask you about the ecosystem, because Dave and I were just talking in our CUBE pod this past Friday about how the role of the ecosystems are changing in the modern era. It's not just, hey, I'm in the ecosystem, I resell, or I do some integration. The integrations are different, okay? Because if you're going to integrate, if you're going to go bring those point products into a platform, then you're going to talk to another platform.
Yes.
So there's usually an engineering discipline developing. We're seeing that clearly in the talks and in the data, but we haven't really kind of heard how that maps to strategy and execution, because, okay, you're going to be in sovereign cloud. That's essentially a region that's got its own requirements.
Yes.
That's going to be upside for you and growth.
Yes.
But when you talk about the ecosystem, which the survey data shows that the ecosystem is also participating, there's more spend to run things. They're not just channel partners to sell, they're running on behalf of the customer and behalf of the new players. So what's your view of the ecosystem role, the relevance? Is it more engineering?
I think the ecosystem partners are trending in two directions. Because cyber ecosystem started with hardware-based resellers with a margin structure and limited services around it. Okay, that's what cyber eco. Very different than infrastructure, because infrastructure started with that but very quickly evolved to cloud building or other sort of value providers. Cyber is behind on that front, but it's too late now because technology moved to the cloud in the cyber front. So what we are seeing is the world is shifting to two parts. One is either you're becoming managed service providers, and managed service providers are aggregating smaller players into standardized platforms, and they're running it for more and more customers and customers at scale. That's a change. That's never happened in the past, but there's no way a mid-sized enterprise can get the right cyber expertise. So standardized platforms with the right cyber expertise that can operate more customers and even customers that bigger will happen. We're seeing that pattern.
On the managed service side,
on the managed service side. And then the second is the partners are going into more solution integrations. It will happen because you can see if customers have to roll out, I consider in a cyber architecture there are 3 key solution areas, maybe 4. You protect your people, you protect your code, you detect and respond, and then you have your zero trust perimeter. If you put out these 4 things, you've got your cyber architecture. But cyber teams are not designed to do these implementations. They're risk people, they're SOC people, and IT teams are not designed and ready for that. So there is a clear need for solution providers to emerge. So we see that distinction, and we think that we have to help partners on both ends. And this is where alliances need to be formulated.
Yeah.
Okay, we're not there yet. Okay, I believe the alliances need to be formulated because someone, if they feel like one platform will be serving on both ends of the spectrum, it's unreal, it's impractical, it's not going to happen for a long period of time. Maybe after 5-7 years further consolidation, but not now.
Well, but to your point earlier about we're starting to see some indications of consolidation, your consolidation play is through the ecosystem. It's not through being
I mean, we're consolidating, like we did acquisition of Tessian and Normalize last year. We're looking at some organic innovations that we will release this year, which are built around our platform. And we will continue to acquire things that are human-centric, okay? But we won't go acquire XDR. We won't go acquire SASE.
Partner for that.
Those are the partnerships, okay? And we believe vice versa, because if any of those players acquire human-centric, then we are still the industry leader in that space. You'd still have to partner, even if you have piece parts.
It's best of breed platform, Dave.
Well, how does George say it? It's gone from best of breed versus suite to now best of breed versus best platform.
Best platforms. I think that's sort of
what's well, how do you approach that platform? Is it single platform from one brand, or is it an ecosystem?
I mean, George and I, we have this discussion all the time. We were recently on a panel. But if you think about it, it's a perfect complement solution. We are upstream, preventing bad stuff from hitting humans and making sure humans don't make a mistake for losing data. In case something happens where something gets through our defense, gets through humans, CrowdStrike detects it, XDR, and responses it. So what do? We send signals both ways. All of our intelligence, we share with them and they share with us. Anytime they detect something, they can query our system to see how it happened so that they can respond to it. So that's a classic case of how the solutions need to be built.
And that's a great...
And then for your business, the old adage, bad human behavior trumps good security every time. That's
100%.
That's why you're in business.
That's 100%. And bad human behavior is something, in the past we have taken an approach of, listen, we're going to defend and protect 100% of threats. We can't ever depend on a bad human blame. But now we are saying, listen, we're going to be the best at it. No one will be 100%, including us. So as a result, we have to build human resiliency. Human behaviors are not changed by making, you and I can go attend those 30-minute sort of security awareness classes.
In the world.
They're not going to do anything. You have to really go through simulations, gaming, something fun, something entertaining that makes you remember what to do when you are encountered with that situation.
Sumit, I have to ask you, because obviously we have the West Coast, Silicon Valley, and NYSE studios connections, that audience. I was talking to someone in New York, an investor type, and they're like, Proofpoint, what's the upside? They were trying to scope and understand your vision for the company. How would you talk to that type of investor profile in scoping the TAM for, I think the human-centric is just beginning. I think it's going to explode in size. Is it a category that's kind of well-defined? Has it got a TAM?
I think it's starting
How would you scope the opportunity around human-centric? Because we're going to be targeted. Social engineering is not going away. It's a major growth category, in my opinion. It will change, but that is going to springboard growth. How would you scope that?
I think there are three things that are growth vectors for us. Number one, we have this undercurrent of social engineered attacks that are happening at a growth rate that's never been seen before. We have only really captured, even in Global 2000, we're only there 30% of the market. Still they are using old network-based appliances that don't ever do any kind of protection with the sophisticated models, okay? So there's a clear share shift that will change, and we are in the best position to capture it because we've got the best solution in there, number one. I think secondly, we've got a growth vector on data security. Data security is a high growth solution for us, and with the data security at rest and data security in motion, that's only we have it. And you know what? It's not a small business for us. It's about 30% of our business now and growing as a percentage of the business because it's growing even faster than our core business. So that's the second growth vector for us. And thirdly, you have to think that when truly these new markets of customers saying, I need to go to a service provider, or I need to get to a simpler solution that I can operate but with the best possible protection stack, we haven't even played in the market up until now. We just launched our solution. So we're excited about it. Our partners are saying this is exactly what we want. We announced a partnership with Ingram. Anyone can go out there, get it easily. Our marketplace solution on Azure comes alive here in the next coming weeks. So we think that opens up a completely new addressable market for us.
What's been the results of that effort? Because I think that's the key one there. Has it been well received? You've seen some early metrics?
It's early because the solution that I'm talking about for the mid-enterprise, it's connected to Microsoft API. It was launched 31st of March. The POCs are going great. So we feel great about the product and the solution. There's tons of interest, but it's too early for us to tell.
Got it.
It's a growth vector for us.
All right, so the next question is customers. What are some of the new things that you're learning from and what customers need to know about Proofpoint? Because as you evolve with the market, you're riding the wave, you got good product market fit in the core business, you got some headroom, new initiatives that will bear fruit, looks like. What's the new pitch? What's the new narrative? If you had to take an Instagram photo of the new Proofpoint, what would it be?
Well, I think Proofpoint, firstly, the human-centric part of consolidating data, security, and threat security into an integrated solution with one human risk management is something our existing customers love. They're like, why am I using some other DLP? Why am I using some other data security? This is integrated. This will tell me who are my most attacked people, who are the people who have the worst behavior with data, and I can then train them and simulate them completely differently.
ROI, immediate.
It's a huge ROI and a huge visibility and control. So to me, that sort of is the interest from customers. All 200, 220 meetings we've had, they're like, oh, I love your data security. It just fits into my human risk. And it just becoming, that's why it's becoming a growth vector
that's a
for
great,
us.
I think you cracked the code on the human angle. Congratulations. Well, great to see you.
Good to see you.
Congratulations.
Great to see you, Dave.
All right.
Yeah, thank you for having
back
me.
delivering the goods on theCUBE as always. And we're theCUBE bringing you all the data here at RSA. I'm John Furrier with Dave Vellante. Thanks for watching.